So I thought I'd make a video. Got a lot of studying in today. Trying to eat healthy, and walking to the grocery store and all the aisles really makes me think I really cannot eat anything anymore. All I can eat is like beans, beans, beans. Maybe, obviously get some little small loaves of bread, rice, vegetables, in can. That's because, I'm having some health conditions with my liver. I really need it to heal before because if it gets to other stages, it'll scar permanently and you can't fix it. And I've already had chemo and a transplant before. So at least I know I'm trying my best, that even if something does happen, I did what I could for what little bit I had the opportunity to. It sucks because I'm looking at all these different groceries. I'm like, cheese, I can't eat cheese. It has so much fat in it. It tastes so good though. I'm like, there's all this stuff that I can't eat or just give it a try. I can't. But anyway, I smoke a lot of cigarettes, so who's to blame, right? So, but I wanted to talk about, I got my candles, my Jesus candles. This kind of reminds you of, Robert Palomo Sr. when he was kind of looking at me like this, like in the same exact position, exactly like this, when he was dying. And, a part of me, I remember thinking when I walked and left out the door, and I thought, this was probably going to be the last time, but I had hopes that I was going to see him again in a week or two. But anyway, I wanted to talk about, the subject that I was wanting to talk about, and that was, I got these candles. I understand everybody has their own religion. I'm not trying to get anybody on it. If I'm digging in a trash can with a crucifix around my neck, and a Bible in my hand, then that's what we'll do. That's what I'll do. But I know that if somebody's eating steak dinner and being praised like they are, I'm doing my best in whatever it is to not be jealous of what somebody else has that I cannot control. Things that I cannot control over. And trust me when I say this, you will never win a fight against me in a courtroom. And the level of integrity, justice, and honesty, and solid proof, and just the basic core of the fucking just blood morals of human existence, that I am right and you are wrong. And sadly, we live in this world where, you have people that they're driving expensive cars, living in expensive houses, and have all this money and live very comfortably, and they fetch out scavenging just as equal, if not worse, than the people that really dig in dumpsters for food in real life. And they do that just out of selfish greed, like Sarah Cooper and other people, and they're going to claim that it was something else and all this other shit. So, like, I went to the grocery store and I saw Sarah Cooper, and it looks like, her wearing a costume. And she stands over in the corner like she's standing next door looking at my dad's sister, and she starts playing his seance. And the reason this is because my little sister died. She's blind. She's Mexican. She was my mother's daughter. And somehow Sarah Cooper feels connected with Kenneth over my mother and her children and all the deaths. And nobody cares. You got to understand, in this storybook, I am so solid concrete and so confident. You will never, this is not rather who's right and wrong, because there's no one that listens to see who's right. There is no one that listens. If you don't have a judge and you don't have somebody that listens, you could have saved the world. It had all the evidence in the world, but if nobody listens, there was no judge, there was no nothing that listens to either make the separation of reward or justice of what really happened and what the circumstances were. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. And I'm not here to start claiming and persecuting a fucking 85-year-old lady who, if I told you the stories of what this person did to my mother and me while I'm dying in a hospital, is going to continue feeling sorry. And they're going to continue saying, no, it's because I'm the police officer, not Mulder and Weiser. There are thousands of people that are continuing to support that shit. And it's not going to stop. So, now I'm not perfect. And I think it's important to accept the things that I can't control. But it is very difficult for me. I feel like I'm building up a stroke, and I'm not kidding. Like, I feel like I'm building up a stroke. I'm just, like, fucking fall on the floor and just start bleeding out of my fucking ears and eyes and mouth from my brain just bursting, and the injustice about what's happening. And it's very difficult to deal with because in the most basic of common sense, like, it's very difficult because I know my mother. I was there. I saw the whole thing, and they're telling me it never happened. And they beat the shit out of me to telling me it never happened. They beat the shit out of me to tell me, no, this is what the story is going to be. I do not feel empathy for elder people that are, I'm telling you, I've met some really monstrous people. Whether you want to say, forgive them, or you want to go ahead and say it's an excuse because they're older and they've went through a lot. I don't know what you want to make of it, but I don't. Someone who is 70 years old is ready to put that gun to their head and shoot and kill themselves just to put you down in their last moments of life at the core values. So like what this person was doing, and I know what they're doing. They do this because they want to generate my dead sister. So in the afterlife, many people don't believe in Jesus and the church fully, even when they read the Bible and all this other shit. Most people venture off and believe a little bit of the mediumship and spiritual world. But that's not what you're supposed to be doing if you truly believe in Jesus and God. But we do the best we can for those that want to, right? So the best equity that you're going to get in credit is to strip my sister, who died, and I was watching her. My mother got anally raped. She was crying. She couldn't touch the kid. I watched this kid shit herself, piss in a princess outfit. And so what Sarah Cooper will do in her team, especially Kenneth, because remember, this is a tactical match. It's all to benefit Kenneth and the Cooper family. But you got to understand that I don't know. This is a global more picture that I don't know who's involved. The people that are involved don't give a fuck. And they're not mapping out anything. They don't care at all. They don't give a shit. They just want to make sure homosexuality, keep it a secret over there. Oh, no, this is what they are, and then that's just it. If you want to point the finger, point it at Barack Obama or George Bush. I don't care. Die. It is as cold, as worthless as my life has been in circumstances that have lasted this long. With very few blessings, but only to count the little blessings that I had and magnetize them to say they were just gold nuggets that were discovered on a different planet. I mean, that's how precious they were. But I think it's important to talk about because I understand I can't do anything about it. And I think that's something I need to, because I want to be able to fight for my mother. I want to be able to, the injustice that was done. But the President of the United States, Barack Obama, for his niggas, and George Bush, they were directly involved, and they send their people, and they have their military, and they have all this other shit. They kill people all the time over there. They don't feel anything. When they cry, it's because they're selfish, and they're just thinking about their goddamn selves and what the attention they want. They don't function normal. They're animals. They're worthless pieces of shit that went through this world to scum whatever person was valued to them put it on their fucking plate and make excuses and talk about it later. It's not going to change. He won't hear, he won't see, he won't yada yada. Fancy words will be spoken later. But the people that deserve the harshest of punishment isn't going to get it. Who it went to the most wrongful, innocent people, and that was my immediate family. And it is very difficult because even when I let go of my dead sister, who it was so horrific, do you have any idea how insulting that is and what rage that brings into a person when you fucking fuck their mother in the ass? Like, I'm dying in a fucking hospital and Sarah Cooper is telling me and taunting me about my fucking dead sister. Like, this is what she's doing, is to collect her spirit and just vampire her ass. Claim it hers, so that every word becomes spoken will be spoken as if I'm giving you a portion and piece of that, as opposed to it belongs to me. No, it belongs to God. No, it belongs to. And so what happens is then you can do the association with other people that have died in other circumstances. And then it is. But it feels very, very, very rich, very wealthy, and soothing and comfort when it was yours the entire time. Because we don't know in the afterlife, and we like to think of angels and spirits that help us and all this other shit. But that soothing is not something that is being offered. It's Sarah Cooper's soul. The fact that I'm even having this conversation is already told you who owns her soul and pieces of it, and her emotions and her brain, and who has a higher level spirit of understanding on top of that shit. This is my full-blooded sister. I mean, I'm watching my mother come home and cry and all this other shit. So, it is very difficult because it's Barack Obama that's doing this. He sends his people, he took off the other way. There's no reason to be fucking showing up at my job sites, McDonald's or Albertsons or any other environments. That was just, oh, it's political power. Let me give fancy words. You got to understand, this is, the world is such an awful place that you will ultimately will be grateful for whatever dog shit they feed out. Whatever shit they feed out on the fucking floor, you will be forced to fucking be grateful for that. The same way that prison inmates go to prison for 30 fucking years for something they didn't do, and they get stuck in solitary confinement because they fucking stabbed or got into a fight or some crazy shit, and they're in the fucking shoe for, 4 months in a solitary confinement, 24 hours a fucking day, 23 hours a day, 1 day recreation. I mean, you're lucky to get a shower. You get a glass of water and a sandwich, and you're going to be a fucking good boy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's all you ever fucking were. That's how fucking terrorizing this fucking world is. So it is best in my interest to always benefit them. I don't hold on to it, and I don't feel like I hold on to it more than Sarah Cooper and her team and President Barack Obama and George Bush. And they're going to be saying, oh, it's because he's a leader and it's easier to point the dead soul. All that is an exchange of something else. To even be mutilating the little girl in front of me like that for Sarah Cooper is the highest level of, and this has been going on. What happens is when you get so much abuse, it wears and tears the value and preciousness. The same exact concept of a rose or a flower. It's slowly, within 2 days, 3 days, you got to buy another batch. You got to plant some more. But the existence of that single flower and experience into this world decays. There is a witherness to all human life. It is a cycle of all human life. Yes, you can have the spirit again. There is a cycle that we age, and to always be grateful for that. And it's the human experience, but it's not the exquisite of really what you're really looking at. You're looking at the perspective of somebody else's fucking eyes. That's what you're doing. So that's what they're forcing me to do. But anyway, if you don't ever talk about it, you won't ever be able to talk about the pain and the great details. So it becomes very difficult because my mother she doesn't have the ability to talk about the unbelievable suffering and pain she went through. And I don't know who I don't know who the biological father of Marco is, which is her twins. And I have a very strong hunch and feeling that it has someone to do with the Cooper family. That's why Kenneth felt like he was the ownership over my mother and making decisions and going to shit all over it. You got to understand, Frankie was being horrifically molested and raped. That isn't going to change anything. The president, let me tell you something what happened. 3 days ago, 4 days ago, I went out to the bus stop and there was a guy that they intentionally did this. He looks exactly like Frankie. They get him the same head shape, haircut, body shape, and so I watch him, and they make sure they use visual psychological tactics. They make sure that the clothing and individual that they get, I physically see that person. He's not trying to hide. It's to to contaminate what my brain takes in. That's why they're doing it. And so when I walk out there, and I just notice it, and I can tell that he's wandering like 100%. This he wants shit from me. He wants to start shit. And so I just see him keep walking by, and I was like, yeah, leave this guy alone. I didn't say anything. He didn't stare at me. He was just walking by, and I could tell. And so he stops maybe 40 to 60 feet from the from the bus stop, and he turns around and he opens his mouth and he goes, and it looks like there's a black, like, you ever seen the horror movies, satanic movies, where you see like a demon coming out of someone's fucking mouth and shit, and it's all black, like a dark demon or some shit? It looked like a spider, or like a demon in his fucking mouth. I swear to fucking God. And you ever seen a movie that would like scare you? You see it open mouth, you see like a fucking black or some shit indicating it's Satanism or some shit. This is what it looked like. I'm not fucking kidding. And what they'll do is they'll tell somebody to put something in their mouth, like, I don't know, like a small black tennis ball. And they'll tell him to turn around and open his mouth to make sure I visually look at Frankie, because this is what Frankie looks like. And so it fucks with you. And I didn't think of it. I just kind of like, I get frustrated because they beat the shit out of me with these electronic devices to always stay submissive, and be obedient. Whatever their psychology isn't going to make a difference. And this has happened 4 days ago. The list of things that keep going on never seemed to end. And it only got worse. And I think it's important for me to talk about, because it's my biological father, having Sarah Cooper and Kenneth Cooper at the radio station, DJ Keynote, who ever got involved in my life and control my mother and manipulate her sons and me, like, you couldn't get any more disrespectful. All my mother's identical twin is doing is cleaning up Sarah's asshole and shit. That's all she's doing. They don't tell my mother's identical twin what she's doing, but the actions that she takes a repercussion directly against me in retaliation. But she's not. It's a psychological tactical tool. It's like if someone told you all these raping stories that were exactly identified on how you experienced you being raped, but they never knew you were getting raped, but that someone told that person to tell you that. Now, psychologically, that person doesn't understand that happened to you. But when they express that to you, you feel very offended and personalized, and you feel so stunned because how did this person know so many things? It's just psychology. Barack Obama's psychology. Okay, well, that's what they're doing with my mother toward me, with Sarah Cooper and Kenneth. And so, for me, I think it's, most important to just keep forgiving, and that doesn't belong to me. That little girl, that is Sarah Cooper's little sweetheart. So when I was at the grocery store, what they do is they get a guy that looks like my father, Raymond Palomo, and they get Sarah Cooper to walk right by him, like my dad, Raymond Palomo's guiding Sarah and telling Sarah what to do, because what they're doing is they're changing the story. My father had no business. He always referred to me as that she was a bitch. And let me tell you something. At the funeral, Sarah Cooper started laughing out loud. And then Kenneth stood right in front. I didn't get a proper burial with my father because he was standing in front of it. And he literally took ownership over the dead body. Now, the psychologist, all they're doing, and all these people in this house, and all these people that are on the buses, all these people, everywhere I go, they get informed to how to behave and what they're doing to me, shooting these. It's just mass psychology, so that it only benefits them and helps them to alleviate that. It's very frustrating because I'm smarter than these motherfuckers, but it doesn't matter how smart you are. It matters who's the one who's in power and who makes those deadly shots. Those gunfire shots, and they're the ones that are doing it to me. Like just a second ago, I felt a lot of pain right here for a second. But I think it's important for me to talk about because it's hard, when you see the level of number of rapes that I experienced, not just me experienced, but against my brother, my mother, you know, coming home crying. This is my immediate family, and I never existed. I never did anything, and you used identical twins to poison my fucking mother, and for Barack Obama and George Bush to help Sarah, because Sarah Cooper looks a little bit reminds George Bush's wife, and he dealt with the 9/11. I mean, it's the frustrations of anger are way through the fucking roof that you have to let go. Like, you are right. You deserve the justice. Don't let a worthless old piece of shit and a group of family members, disgusting as they were, be cherished. You were right, and you don't deserve that, to have somebody like them do that to you, or in their team of people. But it's not going to change. Barack Obama's in charge with his niggas. He has the political power. He has his shit that's going on. They're going to keep fancying words. They're going to keep saying this shit, and it's not going to stop. It's not. The best thing that you can do, at least in my ideas of it, and I try to do for myself, is to have a faith in a God that's healthy. I grew up with Christianity and Catholicism. To accept the things that I cannot change and make an understanding to it that best puts peace. Because no matter how right I am, and I was, it's not going to do anything. Because, you're not going to win a war against people with real guns and you have sticks and rocks. It's not going to happen. Okay? It's very painful because, you're talking about a dead little girl. If I told you the extent of things that I was actually doing to try to alleviate all the damage in my family, you'd be really surprised. There's a story to everything that I'm doing. And much of it you never know what that truth is because I'm too scared to tell you or put it on camera. So most of the time they figure a lot of it out through the psychology and the abuse they do to me and all kinds of shit. But it's best to... It is difficult because if Frankie is healthy, it isn't going to change about what they did. Nobody cares about what they did to me. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about how injustice this is. About me being attacked at my job sites, being attacked at Subway and all these different things. They don't care. These are total strangers with a lot of fucking money. They've already experienced their life. They already got the fuckings they wanted. There's so much suffering in the fucking world they're going to point the finger at. There's so much better of a skin color they want you to have. Better of skin color and hair color that needs to carry, the baton for the blue-eyed white race, because you're going to fuck up your genetics if you keep throwing it to colored people. It's not going to change. But you as an existence of a person will die. Like, I'm having organ failure and shit is what they have me telling me at the fucking doctor's office. There hasn't been any... Look, they keep shooting me with electronic devices. Like, I just felt them. As soon as I told you that, they'll shoot an electronic device. What does this represent? Bicep? Like, bye, you get ready to die. So they interject a reflection directed back at me by then shooting an electronic device thinking that this is never going to harm them, and it doesn't. If I died a year ago, what justice do you think is ever going to happen with any of these people that have been beating the shit out of me with these electronic devices? Fuck it, if there was military, you want to call it military psychology, do you think in an afterlife, because of what they did, anything bad is going to happen? And if it is, how bad do you think it's really going to be? If there is. If. Remember, you have children digging in sewers, fucking next to pigs in fucking India, and the most grossest shit, dead bodies in fucking Russia. I was watching the other day where people are just abandoning these houses in the cold, and they just fucking rot and die, and they're having to put them in plastic body bags. And you do this for a fucking living. Like, you just dead bodies, like, they don't give a fuck. Like, And you think that it's any different with my sister or Robert Zarate or my life? I don't give a shit. Remember, only the quality gets to live. So, in my opinion, I would have done things different in the law of order, but it feels better to forgive. It feels better to be nice. It feels better to be at peace. Because no matter how right, and maybe, people talk about, like, people talk about, you hear these artists or you hear these people talk about how much pain they're going through, or else all this bullshit. Like, I watched this video, like, it was like a year ago, a couple years ago or something. It was a woman in Mexico with a cartel. And this lady looked like, I know the ethnicity and I know the culture very well, so I know the characters of these people that at a very core value, like my mother. And I knew this lady was not involved in shit. Okay, she was like an old lady that lives in a hut that makes tortillas, out of maíz, for the little kids and shit. Like, with a little apron and shit, and has like some maybe chickens and like in a very poor, and they speak very nice to you. Like, they speak like honey sweet to you when you hear their voice. And this lady says that she watched her like kids and like her family. She watched her family and her husband, and I don't know how many of them it was, like family members and other people that were close to her, somehow got involved. They weren't drug dealers, they were totally innocent, but they had been like set as an example. And the cartels got to them, and she said that they made her, in front of everybody, in front of her own family members, watch them get burned alive and tortured for days. Literally throwing their body in gasoline and just watching them burn completely alive. Cutting them into little pieces and letting the blood drain and skinning them. Plucking out their fucking eyes, cutting off their ears, and letting them just being strapped to a chair for 3 or 4 fucking days. Each one of them. Like, and this lady starts like crying. She goes, they made me watch my own and she says the pain, it's seared into her mind of what she saw. And they what they did is they like sat her down and they put her directly in front of everything they were going to do to them, just so she could watch. Like, they were doing this intentionally directly to torture her, so she could watch what they were going to do to them. And she killed all of them and watched them burn alive. And she said she was watching, and they forced her like to watch what was going on, and screaming for help, being burned in a fucking pit of fire, alive. And you hear the expression of this person talk about the pain that they're going through, the anguish, and you're like, wow, I don't think that my life is that fucking bad. I don't think my life is really that bad. I complain about what now? So, and then, you hear these people that, they stubbed a toe, an ant bit them. They get $1,000 in a symphony singing a song for them. And they want to feel sorry for the wrong person. And, it's hard to gauge because, these were my own life experiences that I saw in the world that I lived in. And someone, it's so violating to like a very soul value. It's very hard on top of the electronic devices, like an existence because the reason the psychologists and the beatings of the electronic devices and the reason they place these things is to strip me of any essence of what this dead little girl is. Because the reason I say this, it's focused so much on this dead little girl nowadays, is because she didn't get a proper burial. She didn't have me attended. I'm her sister. That's my sister, my blooded sister. I was watching her princess outfit, shitting and pissing herself, and all the emotions and things that went on. Now, I didn't play in front of this girl, take care of her her hero and her archangel is Ivan. But what level connection I had was deeper than anybody in the family other than my mother, because Frankie was in his room, Julian was too young to understand that. I was over there with Ivan all the time as well, and I was old enough to understand. So President Barack Obama took over her soul, and then he gives it to me whenever he wants it divided at a ceremony. For hot niggas, for Sarah and Kenneth, because Kenneth did it for the niggas at 979 The Beat, hip hop station. That's what it is for Madison. Oh, that's a straight one there, though, huh? But it's a very difficult circumstances because, as you age, at least to my understanding, it is a learning process for me as well. You fizzle. It's like you fizzle away from the frustration because, especially when you get closer to, death, which to me, even though I'm only 42 years old, I've already had cancer, transplant, I'm having organ problems and shit, my liver count's going up, I've almost died of chemotherapy, I'm likely to die of other diseases just because of the transplant, so I'm like 20 years older, like I aged 20 years plus down the road, and I have to think ahead. But it is to strip you of those essentials, and my mother, because let me tell you something, more than anything is probably most important. My mother mentally cannot comprehend and think about really what's going on. And that's why Kenneth and Sarah did what they did in Kenneth. That's why every single one of these people are just cleaning up for him. They try to dress like Kenneth. They try to act like him. All this is because they're just fixing and cleaning. Fixing and cleaning. I'm telling you, if I was to put it in a big room, courtroom to map out everything, you will be stunned away that this is not about like me feeling right. This is about the just and the proper ethic, the proper ethics, the equity, the value, the things that we're going to be terminated, all of us, and it's going to be bad. But they exercise. My mother would be pulling out her hair, and that's why my mother's losing her hair, and was because to put Sarah Cooper in charge of me, in charge of Kenneth over Julian and me, and over my mother and decisions of her dead little girl, and this and that, and if it turns out Sarah's connected to the guy that impregnated my mother, you couldn't get any more disrespectful. I don't give a fuck. The police department was involved in this. The teams that they created and people did it all in a team for them. Still to this very day, they just chisel away. It gets very, very dangerous. Feels like my guts about to shit myself. You can feel that they're pushing this electronic device that slowly pushes the intestines. The feces makes me push out gas. But it's I forgot what I was going to say. It was something else I was going to say. It's not going to change, okay? It's not. The more peace, the more better, the more I can move forward, the better. There's nothing that I can do. Oh, and this is what I wanted to say. I saw Alison Dubois. Alison Dubois, for those who don't know, the famous Michael Jordan medium. I'm not to target her or say anything. It was after she was at Standard Register. I mean, not Standard Register. I saw her come into my shop, and she had these 42 by 38 scrolls we used to have for architectural designs of colleges and houses, all this kind of stuff. It's our architectural firm, print shop. She came in, she asked for some plans. She's like, oh, can I help you? And she was there by herself, and I was there. There was maybe two guys in the back. This is before I ever read her books. I had heard her maybe once or twice, but I looked at her, and I talked about this experience, already, and she left, right? And it looked like her husband showed up, afterwards. around this time, I don't know if it was like a month or two, 3 months. I want to say it was within that time between, say, 5 to 6 months. And I think I don't know if I was at the library. I don't know. I want to say I was sitting down somewhere. I want to say it was at the library. And it was at the Josie Ranch over by my house. And I saw her pretend that she was book shopping. And I saw her and I was like, wow, that girl's so pretty. You know, she's a very attractive looking woman. I love red hair. And she's very voluptuous, very filling. And she was dressed pretty professional. And, she had high heels on, but like the outfit that you see her wear, like when she does these homicidal detective work on shit with the police department, she kind of looked like she was dressed like that. I still remember what she was wearing. And she grabbed a book, and she was kind of looking like she was just grabbing a book, and then she squatted to the ground. And then she was looking at a book, and I thought it was very unusual behavior because usually women don't do that. Her age, everything about the situation didn't feel that she was just really looking for a book. Nothing about it did. Like someone told her, I think, to do that, and then she squats and then leaves. And she just, and I don't know, this had to do, maybe my sister who lived next door, maybe she was murdered. Because I don't know, she does detective work. Maybe it finds out that somebody poisoned my mother's stomach and the little kid was murdered, and that's why she came out defective. And she was doing some psychic medium work, to help Sarah Cooper out, and, Kenneth, and Ken Cooper, the police department. I don't know, but I did see her. Now, I did read her all books. I don't mess with any of that stuff, and I don't ever plan to, ever again. People do what they want. I'm not going to be judgmental on that, but I just know it's not good. That's, sort of a judgment, but just, that's what the judgment, if I do take on it, and I'm not allowed to. I have been trained, told, and confined, and I just live by that. And that's just the way it is. I'm not allowed to represent myself in those fashions. They have beaten the shit out of me so often, and I've lived like this for so fucking long, there's no changing. That's why they did it. President Barack Obama is George Bush is a Christian. He does the Christian shit. The Jesus, whatever he thinks of it is. But, there is no reason. I'm going to tell you something. If I didn't believe in Jesus, I wouldn't have spent, I spent a lot of incredible amount of work on these model ships with archangels and Bibles and crucifixes to help alleviate and put peace, to help give stories, to help influence and inspire. And I hope I get to build hundreds more throughout my life. But I think it's important because my mother has no clue about what these people are doing. Okay? And I don't know if Paris Hilton was, I don't know what celebrities involved, I don't know if Paris Hilton could have got involved, but I know Alison Dubois was talking some really bad shit to like one of her cousins, saying she was gonna get died single for the rest of her life or some shit. It was all over television. But I say this because I don't like any part of it. I respect that, and what is, but my mother does not mentally comprehend. I'm only talking to her twin. I'm telling you, it doesn't, regardless of triplets or not, they have no idea about how disgusting and what they're doing. She does, because there's nobody that cares. There's nobody that cares. Even when someone else cares, the interest, a very high level interest, you're not going to be able to give a shit anymore once my mother shuts that door and says, no, it's okay, throw the little girl away. It's Sarah Cooper time. It's Kenneth time. It's just everyone attack Hector. Oh yeah, he's just psychology. They're just fixing it. It isn't going to change anything. Then it shuts the door, and that's what they're doing. It's hard because, it's my mother's triplet, but the impressions are so deep with my mother, what I remember them as, because you're dealing with an unbelievable, we were not fortunate. We didn't have credit cards. It was none of those things. Like, it was just ass raping. Like, Sarah Cooper called my mother a bitch when I was a kid, attacking my mother in the hospital. You don't understand how ruthless and disgusting, and they're only being cherished because of the president. and he continues to do it with the people in this house, the people on the fucking bus and train, the people on the next things that's going, it isn't going to change. That's why I think it's always best to, alleviate. It makes me feel better with, candles and Jesus and that stuff, because I can't lead to a better path, even if it's a rocky one and it ain't a very good one. It's better than one not having nothing at all. It's not going to work. The President George Bush and Barack Obama, there was no reason to do that. It's his people that he's sending to do that to me, and it's not going to stop. They're going to say fancy words in this shit. They're going to want to take. They don't care, and it isn't going to change. It chisels away, these experiences. It's very frustrating because I should never, ever feel this. That's exactly what they're doing. That's why they're doing it. If you look at my Raymond Palomo's website, you can see Lynette, Michelle, and Sarah Cooper all make a posting on there and says, dang, he goes, oh, Grandpa, we miss you so much. We used to have so much laughter and all this good shit. They were never there in the fucking picture. Not one time. My father, Raymond, had no interest in Sarah Cooper at all. Like, as a kid, I would say, like, oh, before he committed suicide, like, he just didn't give a shit. Like, she was like, I don't care, she's, does her own shit. She doesn't visit her call, it was none of that. And she posted on there, oh, you used to call me princess. Do you know why she's doing that? Because my sister was always in an outfit, and princess outfit, shitting herself. So you can attach the emotion. Oh, that's not what I mean, but this is what I mean. And you just, that Miranda's my dead soul, body, spirit, spiritual guide. And that's why. So my mother doesn't even own the little girl, even though she was pushing it out of her body. It belongs to Sarah Cooper and the spirit moon for Kenneth Cooper. And so then they start practicing what they're going to give. So after you already feel all this, what they took, now these neighbors, all these roommates, everywhere I go, they'll start telling me to do shit to then make me feel, you see, and then know you had it the whole time. It's psychology. There's no one that cares, and that's why all these horrors are happening. If you did this to other people, like in normal states, they would just. This is like the kind of shit, that Kenneth did at the radio station directly to me and to like someone's mother and all this other shit that's going on. Nobody cares to listen to details and how profound they are. This is the equivalent, like many people hear stories that they would get a gun and go kill you and your family for fucking killing their mother. Like, and for real. Like, the stories you hear of a 16-year-old kid get a gun and go kill a motherfucker that, beat the shit out of his mother because he thought it was hip-hop. 97 on, they beat 50 Cent for the niggas, for Barack Obama. I mean, the money and all this shit doesn't matter. It's so selfish and greed because no one cares about these tactical tools and these things that we're doing. That's all they're doing in this house is cleaning up for them. The longer I stay bitter, as angry as I was before, always shouting out shit, it doesn't do anything. Nobody cares. If I don't do what the Bible says and Jesus says, I can still end up outside. But at least I have something, there's some kind of, and I'm going to keep trying. I mean, there's nothing else we can go to. For other people, man, it was, they don't have to worry about it at all, They don't have to worry about shit. They got money. They got people cheering. They had a better life. They make excuses. They are parasitical, emotional vampires. I'm dying in a fucking hospital, but nobody cares. And this is about Kenneth. For every little shit, like when, Kenneth was making fun of me getting fucked in the ass. You can do that, He just gets a. But for me, had I done something half of what that is, I would have really been eating in the trash can. I haven't done that ever. For real, they would have had me. We'll put clean sandwiches on there, and then we'll throw them in the garbage can. Psychology will fix it. We got lots of money. We'll fix it later down the road for the house. For the DJ career, for education, it's not going to stop. Like, it's the frustration and anger is like more than I can handle, and it feels like a stroke that's coming on. And how unfair this is. This type of pig behavior, the worst of it, is happening. And my mother has the brain of my sister, like, just like this, like, what's going on? I'm just Celestina. Oh, Sarah Cooper is just love, and just Kenneth was love, and I just make babies. Here you go, babe. Barack Obama. Oh, okay, Barack Obama. Yeah, George. But, like, and my mother was not, like, it makes me, like, it brings, like, tears, you know, the understanding of that, because my mother didn't deserve that when others did. And some worthless piece of shit to do that, and groups of them, and then do that to me, and the details of it, like, it's like raping the village old lady because she's too, and manipulate because she's too stupid to understand. And time is going to wither away from everybody. It is. We're all gonna die. We all don't have it, you know. We all need to be grateful. We take it for granted. You do. You don't understand that until you see somebody die, and you hear people dying. You know, that it is much more better to feel peace, enriched in peace, and in comfort of the things that I cannot control, and the comforts of things that you cannot control. If what you thought belonged to you, it never belonged to you. It belongs to Kenneth and Sarah and the movement of psychology, her dead little soul. And then whenever they want to throw that to me, when we have a ceremony, if ever, then that's when they'll throw her dead body and spirit at me, and they'll just throw it in little pieces, and they'll resonate the emotions where they want to place them in the certain chambers of the mind and consciousness, and then give it back to Sarah, so that when she gets ready to depart and she goes through life, it's an emotional ride of just, Miranda, I helped Miranda, and I'm the one that felt the emotion for Miranda. You know, whatever her fucking name was. And, like, my mother, you gotta understand what my mother was saying to me in that house about this little girl, the whole experience. And it's, Barack Obama is just sitting there shitting right in my mother's mouth and me. Like when I'm at the fucking architecture firm, at McDonald's, at Albertsons, and what other place I could have caught this motherfucker at. It's not going to change. It is better to feel peace. It's better to feel loved. It is better to experience these types of things. It's not guarantee you if there is an afterlife. But the church is the best chance you're going to get. The Bible and church is the best chance you're ever going to get in this life. When this is over with, if there is something. If there wasn't, there may be you very well got the better hand because of your selfish greeds, and then you go to heaven, and then you go to heaven again. You know, you die, and then you just go to a better fucking place after you fucking shit it, and, you know, continue to do it. It isn't going to change. They're going to use Frankie if Frankie's in a wheelchair drilling out of his fucking mouth. They're going to use it to their advantage for Barack Obama and you know, Kenneth and his passing, the white supremacist in Madison. They're going to help Kenneth out with that dead body. They're going to help my mother, but they're going to tell what portions of that she gets to keep and say what that story's going to be. But it is to play for them. It is to play for the gays and trans. It isn't going to change anything. My mother is nothing but a fucking pig. Just shitting out kids to whatever it is, because she's just a chicken that lays eggs. That's it. And it makes me mad because I value my mother so much even more as I get older. You know, these are the stories that you hear people like, man, you think your mother didn't go to get through a goddamn fucking thing in life. What my mother went through is 100,000. It's like a fucking Holocaust story and shit. You know, but it is best to feel peace, even when at the hardest times, is to love your enemy, to to love those that spit at you. That's the best. You know, it's very hard. It is very hard, but it's best to feel peace because the existence becomes, and I'm not saying just because there is no reward for whatever actions you take at the end of that tunnel that you're going to get rewarded a paradise of heaven. It's a gambling ticket. But I think I'd rather take the best gambling ticket the best way that I can and the best faith that I can to make sure, not to make sure, but to the best of that. Because I am scared. I hope that there dearly is, just like the 8 billion people that are on Earth right now. And since I've made this video, the last 100 people that have died and left this world. You know, but anyway, prayers, you know, and got my candles, you know. It's a bad world. And you don't understand how scary it is when you have people like that, filthy pigs, and like that demon, you know, looking at the devil. It's like shaking hands with Lucifer. You see President Barack Obama or George Bush. It ain't no joke. If you don't think you believe in the devil, you believe in the devil when you see that embedded in their soul and eyes and behavior. Claiming they're whatever. Ingenious, fancy words. No, they know better. And the best beauty of comforts of life is the church. There's a lot. It's unimaginable what human beings, disgusting human beings are. What they've done to each other, what they're willing to do and continue doing it. And they continue doing it. You know, I'm not here to fetch out and fight for my sister. She died a long time ago, and I truly, just as I've been ordered and trained to do, I believe that she is with God. She's with God in the heavens, and she's with Jesus. That's what I believe. And I'm not her hero. I just live next door. Kenneth Cooper really is her hero. The radio station. Because he was hip-hop. And he was protecting her with all his words. You know, with Sarah Cooper. And just, you know, this, and nobody hears, nobody knows anything. You know, that's how that works right there. So, forgiveness time. But there's no one in this world that deserves more of a pat on the back than Ivan. Nobody. Every day he was walking that little girl, feeding her, checking on her. I mean, he genuinely cared for her life. Whatever it entailed that he might have been getting doesn't change the fact he was a good kid. When he watched her, I mean, I looked out the window and I was watching my sister's lifeless dead body hanging from his arms. Now, I know Sarah Cooper and Ken Cooper and Kenneth got all his people went over there, and so the spirit and residue of Miranda, or whatever it is that my sister was, to then whitewash it with Ivan. So if I ever come in contact with Ivan, Sarah Cooper. That's how tough she is. That's how you're going to feel sorry for me. I feel emotions for her, and I'm Sarah Cooper. Like, man, I'm telling you, that I think I'm building up a stroke because my mother hated this lady. But you gotta understand why I'm even being in these circumstances. Like, my mother has no idea what I'm, because I still get the images of my mother shaking when I was with Susie, and she was at this. I know exactly what that is. Like, it's a very internal thing. Like, I'm still shaken by it because it's like, this is what this bitch Sarah Cooper did, and her and they're already old. They want you to feel sorry for them. They're going to continue playing the violin. They think this is a drama TV show. If their world is a bad place, you want to see some real bad shit? Exactly. That's how we get the table we're going to feed ourselves with. This is our gambling table. That's theirs. I'm not making the choices. President Barack Obama, President Barack Obama, President Barack Obama, President Barack Obama, George Bush, President Barack, he gave the order, so, it's just fuck you. It doesn't matter. You're not gonna, you have to go. If you may be lucky. Most of you that watch these videos, or if you're getting a house or you're building houses or whatever you think you're fixing, you may not have to. You may be very, very in comfort, very in the comfort of world, of not having to worry. You have the money, you have sex with many girls as you want, many, especially the gays and the trans, you get to have sex with many gays as you want, many trans as you want, have a good time, and then you do a little charity, you don't have to worry about shit, you didn't get raped, you had get food, you stole a lot of money, but you live below your means, just helping those that really deserve it after I've already been killed and, wasting my life away. It isn't going to change anything. So you could be very well and live a much more happier life, but it is more content for me to be able to be in the circumstances that I am really in. There's no changing. At 42 years old, growing gray hair, it's better to be at peace and grateful, and it feels better.